What's going on, everybody? It's Rev, and welcome back to another Dauntless video. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you the Dauntless Reforged patch, or at least some of my experiences that I had on it. And then I'm also just going to be talking over the footage and expressing what I think is good, what I think is bad, explaining some of the new systems as they come up, and just kind of rambling my thoughts in that regard. So if you like this video, please leave a like. If you want to see more like this, definitely subscribe to the channel. A lot of links in the description and all that good stuff. But let's get right on into it. I think it's important to state early that in a video like this, this is a sort of thing that I do regularly for Phoenix Labs. There's NDA'd content, you know, I sign an NDA and then I get early access to particular portions of Dauntless, aka new patches. And so I can gather footage and kind of formulate opinions, and I'm just hopefully a little bit more well informed than I would be on the day one of the patch. And so it's important to say stuff like this, that I'm experiencing the game from a content creator standpoint, right? Like I'm playing by myself and just kind of expressing my opinions and what I think things mean when I'm playing them, or how they're going to react with when more players are thrown into the mix. And so this is simply my speculation, my opinion, and not 100% educated as I would be on say day one of the patch. And let's talk about the first thing that I think players are going to interact with, which is the Slayer's Path. The Slayer's Path is the replacement, the new and improved mastery system. The aim for the new mastery system is to be easily explained. It explains itself. It's supposed to be more apparent what the player is supposed to do, how they gain their power, and where it's coming from. Overall, I think they're really successful in this regard. I think the Slayer's Path is objectively better than the mastery system. It's easy to explain. It's easy to see what you're getting out of each thing. You can even hoard some of your currency that's required if there's something that you don't really feel like taking. In some cases, you will have to take things that you don't want, but for the most part, the things that you don't want are just kind of weaker versions of the thing that you do want. So it all adds up eventually. However, there are things that are just objectively worse than the others. Things like gathering one extra flower or crafting one extra potion or something like that. There's something to that end that I'm just kind of like, oh, I can hold one extra pylon or throw one extra grenade on there. And I'm just kind of like rolling my eyes at those particular things. Luckily, you're able to just entirely skip them if you don't really care about them, and you can get them later. That being said, it also gives rams a purpose now. Rams have a much larger purpose in the game as opposed to just being potion fodder. Not that that's a bad thing. Being able to buy potions is probably one of the greatest features that they added into this game with some of the, at least to recent memory. How the Slayer's Path feels to a brand new player is going to be something that I cover in a later video, but also is something that is I'm very interested in learning about. A lot of my channel is founded on getting that beginner experience, so I can make educated statements in my videos about for new players that are picking up the game, because I want them to have a good experience. And so I don't want to make a statement on that right now. Instead, what I do want to say is that while there are things that are not very good, there are also things like, oh, you gain 1% crit and there will be a handful of them on there. And so you were gaining like a passive crit now, which is very nice. It gives critical strike overall more value, and you don't really need to invest in it if you don't want to. Like, it's still nice to be able to see a critical strike even though you don't have any cells that give crit, because crit in Dauntless just isn't that good in like at face value. That being said, last thing we'll talk about is the Aetherspark / the prestige system, which is called reforging, hence Dauntless Reforged. We have a system now that once you reach level 20 in your mastery, or like your weapon class EXP, you're able to reforge, which is you'll get a currency. There's a lot of new currencies. That's something that's worth. You get merits. Rams is obviously still a currency. Bounty tokens are still a currency. There's something called Aether Sparks, and there's something Aether something else, and I'm drawing a blank on it. But basically, what's used to get your gear upgraded now, and to get permanent power bonuses on them. So getting your gear to like +3 levels of cells, you're going to need to prestige your weapons over and over and over again in order to get that sort of that level of power. And so that's going to be pretty time consuming, but it is nice because these portraits do level up. They do look different. They kind of have like an Overwatch border to them as you keep prestiging, and that's really nice. I always say that cosmetics, like things that show, things to flex, we need more things to flex, because Dauntless is turning into more of like a social experience, not necessarily a hunting game. And we need more things to be able to flex, and whether it's a portrait, just to kind of show our time spent in the game and our investment into the game. I think that that's really important to keep interest high. And so there, that's kind of where I'm going to conclude on the Slayer's Path. Overall, I think it's objectively better than the Mastery system. There are some hiccups, but they can be remedied or just taken out entirely and replaced with something cooler, and easily can be built upon as we unlock new things into the game, or as Phoenix Labs adds new features. So overall, I think the Slayer's Path is really good. The next thing I'll talk about is the bounty system, which is heavily ingrained in the new Dauntless. Similar to kind of just how it was heavily ingrained with the Battle Pass, now it's ingrained into more aspects of the game, giving bounties overall a higher value. Like, bounties are always good now. Usually you'd like finish the Battle Pass and you wouldn't really care if you had like all the cells that you needed, or you know, all the cosmetics that you could possibly want. You know, vault coins are cool, but now there's even more value for them. And I don't really know how to feel about this yet. I don't want Dauntless to be a game where I just kind of like log in and do my bounties and then log out, because that's where the highest value comes from. I would prefer to stay logged in, and that's not to say that it's going to be a significant increase. Like, if you stay logged in for an extra hour, you're definitely going to see the progress and feel the progress that you would feel you know, if you didn't have any bounty tokens. Like, you're not going to regret wasting that time, but it will be, for some people, a game that you just kind of log in, do your bounties, log out, and that has multiple symptoms. And I think the main one is, and I think a lot of people are kind of already catching on to this, is that you can't really play solo anymore. You can't really like play the hunting grounds the way that you want to necessarily. I'm not sure if it's gonna be as big as a hindrance as the community might think, but not being able to solo, in a way you kind of can, because there are multiple behemoths on the field at a time. So you'll be able to like kind of break yourself off from the group and just kind of fight a scaled up behemoth if that's what you're into, and your team is still going to benefit if they arrive in time. And so you can kind of still like play on your own. You can kind of play the lone wolf if you want to, but overall it's going to be like this. It's going to be a slower experience if the behemoth was, you know, scaled to one person and you're just one person fighting a behemoth. I believe you can still solo escalations and solo other content like trials and all that other stuff, but it's not the hunting grounds, and that's where you're going to be spending a lot of your time. Circling back to the bounties, you're going to be getting weapon experience, you're going to be getting merits for the Slayer's Path, and you're going to be getting the Hunt Pass EXP as well. And so doing your bounties is super important now, and having bounty tokens is going to expedite your leveling experience and your power experience. So the bounty system is like heavily reflecting like a power gain per hour sort of thing. And so it's gonna feel different not having any bounties active. But that's, if there's anything to take away from the bounty system, is that they're very good now. You're gonna be wanting to do them as much as possible. And this next point kind of brings in why the hunting grounds is kind of meh, but also overall I think the hunting grounds are fine. But there are some things that are just like glaringly obvious negatives that I'm not gonna look past, because I just don't see how you miss something like this. I know Phoenix Labs for a fact wanted to add base camps to the hunting grounds. You know, think of like Blue Box and Monster Hunter, right? You know, the resupply, or like the tent if you're only familiar with Monster Hunter World. There's a tent, and you go in the tent and you can change your loadout and some of your stuff, not necessarily like your cells and all, and you can't change everything, but you could like restock, and you can change your, like, you can only equip loadouts that you have equipped, which is great. And it feels really good, and I really wish that they were in hunting grounds. Instead, they're not. We get a resupply crate. So let's say you're hunting around in the hunting grounds and you have a full stock of bounties for doing swords and dodging some attacks and maybe dealing like wound damage. And so naturally I'm gonna kind of like sell into like maybe acidic sword, which is awful and you should never play it. And you know, you dodge the attacks and you finish those 4 bounties, and then I get a bunch of things that are like, hey, you need to kill a bunch of behemoths with war pike. I can only do 8 bounties in that regard because I only get 1 supply crate that doesn't refresh unless I go back to Ramsgate. Granted, you could probably use someone else's crate, but I don't see people being that coordinated, nor do I really envision people being all in the same area. The crate doesn't last very long. There's just a whole bunch of stuff that I'm just kind of like, how did they design it this way? And I'm just within the first, this was like one of the first things that I saw in the first 15 minutes. I was just like, man, I wish I had more supply crates so I can do more bounties. And so the whole like glamour of not having loading screens, while I'm not doing it every 5 minutes, I still need to go through the tedium of going back to Ramsgate and going back to a hunting ground for no reason, essentially, that is warranted. And so there's going to be a situation where, let's say I join a lobby, and I'm playing with like a group of really cool people. They're really good. I'm getting a lot of EXP per hour. And it's like, well, we're all out of supply crates. I guess this is it, you know, the end of the line. We can't continue to play together unless, you know, we all exchange information, and it's so many extra steps that don't need to exist if we could just keep playing together. And so that's kind of like just it's more of like a social gripe than it is like a gameplay gripe, because I just don't really see why we can't have like a base camp or something like that. Hopefully it's something that's added in the future. I think it's a really big oversight to not have it on launch, but that's just me. Moving on from that point and the bounty system and all that, the next thing I want to talk about is gliders and just traveling around the islands themselves. It feels really good. Like, there's not really much more to say other than gliders are a great addition to the game. I think that this I joke that 2020 is the year of the glider for games, because I feel like, you know, Genshin Impact, a bunch of games have added gliders to their game, as a feature. And yeah, Dauntless is among the ranks, but I think that out of all the games, Dauntless has the best glider I've ever experienced. It's really fun to pilot. It goes fast. You can like, they could do something really cool with like glider courses or something like that. It was very reminiscent of The Last Airbender. They have like the same gliders, the kites that the airbenders have that they fly around on, and that's super cool. There are glider cosmetics, and I just think that they could really make like a full look, like flying in to land near a behemoth. It just feels really cool traveling around. It's quick. It's they added a whole bunch more vents for you to jump off of and start gliding. They just need to, you know, fine tune everything to make it feel 100% complete. Like I think that you know, there could be better ways to like go higher up into the air, and making the islands larger is probably the next thing that I would like to see. We have this really fast way to get around the islands, but I would like to be able to go further distances and maybe make it more possible so I can go be a lone wolf but it would be nice if I could be a lone wolf and maybe be a little bit more of a contribution to the people in the lobby. So that's something to consider. Let's see, what else is there to talk about? I want to say that, over the course of time, like over time, you're going to be experiencing events on the hunting grounds, and this can be anywhere to like just a bunch of Boreas minions spawning to two back-to-back dual behemoth hunts or something like that. You're definitely going to want to do those. They offer cores, they offer cells, they offer like bonus merits and all sorts of weapon EXP on top of the stuff for killing the behemoths, and so you're definitely going to want to do those as well. I feel like at this point I'm kind of rambling, and while this patch is kind of advertised as like a brand new Dauntless, the systems are pretty straightforward, and once you log in, you're going to be able to see them kind of working firsthand. Again, I wasn't able to touch every single aspect of the patch, but I think the important thing to know is the prestige system is working and pretty good. The hunting grounds overall, I think it adds it, like Dauntless is much more gamey now, and they're kind of like owning up to the fact that, you know, the game's doesn't have a terrible amount of story, and you can experience what Dauntless has to offer very, very quickly. There are some hiccups in like you need to go back to Ramsgate, but overall you get the lobby, you know, jump in, fight some behemoths, and get the full Dauntless experience in there. You know, you come back to Ramsgate when you're kind of done, and then you can choose what to do from there. I guess last but not least, there are a bunch of extra islands now, and so I do foresee that there are going to be islands that are just objectively better than others for experience based on the behemoth lineup. There are a lot of ones with like Valamir and Skarn and just like high HP behemoths that don't warrant any extra EXP. When there are things like Boreas that do spawn minions, and those minions do give you extra EXP. And so it's just like, when I first logged in, I was just like, dang, things with Boreas are just like objectively better for leveling up my weapons very quickly. Anyway, that's kind of where I'm going to conclude, I guess. I know it's kind of an abrupt ending, but hopefully you guys get the idea with the footage and me just kind of rambling over. That's going to do it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will be streaming a brand new account when the patch does go live, and so I'm gonna just be kind of like queuing up and playing with everyone, maybe even like turn on voice chat and just chat it up with people and see how they're experiencing the new chat or the new patch. So thank you guys for watching. It's kind of a long one, but I had fun making it, and hopefully you enjoyed listening in. Peace out, everybody. Take care, have a good one, and I'll see you on the Shatter Dials.